Oh man, new house. Who dis? Uh, Hello. I'm Winter. And as you can see, I'm in a new place. I'm in a very not familiar environment. I've regretted to inform you guys of things that are happening. I'm going to be having a live stream decently soon talking about everything. But today is going to be a long overdue video. It is currently May 27th as I'm recording this, so this is very, very late. But today, I wanted to sit down and record my video for my top 10 albums of 2023. Yeah, nearly 6 months into the new year of 2024 and I'm making this video. I know, I suck. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing every 2 albums. I'm going to have an honorable mention. So we're just going to get into all 10 of the albums. So let's just do that. So my number 10 album of last year, 2023, is To Let Go from Nate Wants to Battle. This album came out, which really, really impressed me because just the year prior, Nate had released Scrap Heap, saying that, you know, he was taking a break a while from doing fandom music, which I believe he has since returned to. I'm not quite sure. But other than that, he said he wasn't going to be making just music for a while on the Nate Wants to Battle channel. And then this thing dropped all of a sudden in October, and I was really impressed with it. The 3 probably best tracks are Viral, Let the Floodgates Open, and Forgotten, by far. The album itself as a whole is just ridiculously good. It's ridiculously stylized to, you know, Nate's signatures, but it also has this element of fluidity that not a lot of other albums released last year do. The one negative thing I will say about this album and why it isn't higher is because I stated in my reaction to it, you can go check it out, I think it's like up there or up there, whichever way this camera's pointing. I had thought that the album needed a much better resolution to everything that happened within it, and I still stand by that opinion, but by no means is it a bad album. I actually think this album is pretty fucking great, so yeah, that's my number 10 pick. On miscounting, I will actually be doing 2 honorable mentions per each album so that the last 5 or so... Wow. 5 or so albums can get their due time and... due time. And the praises I want to give to them before... you know, without any interruptions from the honorable mentions. So, first 2 honorable mentions are Halocene with their album Maleficent, and Calypsoborn Omega from the Anarchy Project. I thought Maleficent was a fantastic album. It expands on a lot of the original material from Halocene, which is always lovely, led by the lead single Maleficent, and probably the best song from there, entitled Unholy. And Calypsoborn Omega over here is a very, very special 14-track album. 14 or 15, I can't exactly remember. Maybe even 16. Why are things so hard for me right now? And it is very much one of the best albums I listened to this year. The amount of quality in terms of leaps and bounds that this album takes over the rest of the Anarchy discography is absolutely amazing. Best track is probably the track What Am I Anymore, because it has just one of the most heavy, harsh, in-your-face, punch-you-into-it breakdowns that I have heard this year. It is filthy, it is gross, but I absolutely love it. These are definitely 2 honorable mentions. So, number 9 on this little chaotic list of mine is Marc Hudson and his album Starbound Stories. I think you all saw this one coming. Starbound Stories is probably, I think it's one of my favorite power metal records of all time. I think Marc Hudson, as I've said multiple times talking about that man, he is an enigma to me. He started out at no vocal training no like vocal lessons out of what I recall, and he joined the band Dragon Force as the frontman back in 2011 or 2012, I can't exactly remember, but he joined in, and since joining, he has become a force of nature vocally. The man's range is so fucking immense. The man can do anything, and he did production and instrumentals for this album, and it's very impressive. It's a 12-track record, running just under or just over an hour out of what I can recall. Best tracks by far are Stars, the 5th track in the album, Freedom Heart, the intro, and The Siren, which is pretty much the track that carries all of the leitmotifs that are used. And that's another thing about this album that's really cool. It uses leitmotifs. So if you like that, and if you like power metal, if you like Dragon Force, go check this album out, because it's actually really good and it's really worth your time. I think a lot of my viewers might enjoy it. Honorable mentions. Next up, we have SUPERBLOOM's Silent Planet, and we have Obi Katy Cat's self-titled album. Now, I put these two together because I think they are very, very stylistically similar, with SUPERBLOOM from Silent Planet having just some of the grossest of gross, but also this just beatific nature with everything in it. And also, same for here, with Obi Katy Cat's self-titled album. Holy God, some of the breakdowns in this thing are absolutely ridiculous. Obi Katy Cat's album, best track on the record is very, very noticeably 6:66 p.m. It is just heavy as balls. It is mind-numbing, but it is also just heavy in the best way possible. And for SUPERBLOOM, the best track is by far, in my opinion at least, the single that came out, Collider. So yeah, these are these two honorable mentions. Alright, number 8 on this chaotic little list, we have Polaris and their album Fatalism. Fatalism was an album I checked out a little bit late in the year, but I am so glad that I just got to check it out in general, because this album is a masterpiece. It is the last record from Polaris with Ryan Siu. Rest in peace to him, and all my thoughts go out to the family, the band members who have known Ryan for so many years. He was absolutely an inspiration to so many people in the scene. Favorite tracks from this album are Harbinger. By far, that intro is so dirty, it's so filthy. Nightmare, which is a definite combination of the heavier styles and the more beatific styles from this album, with the verses having this very, very heavy sound, the breakdown being vicious, but the chorus just having these soaring highs and wonderful leads. And the third best track, I think, would be Overflow, which is by far, in my opinion, the most emotional from the album, and really, really harkens to Ryan. It has his fingerprint written all over that track. So, yeah. Fatalism from Polaris is my number 8. So, next on the honorable mentions, I'm going to be only listing one. This is an album that, compared to the others, I don't think a lot of people have heard. Yours Truly Nevermore from Hi, My Name is Shan. This is the only mashup album on this list, and I feel that it deserves to be here. It is a double EP, an album that was split into 2 EPs pretty much, and I don't know how to explain this album properly. It is something absolutely astounding to me how this came together. I still don't quite understand my emotions about it myself. It's just such a complex record in a lot of ways. Best track by far, or the one that got me crying and breaking down emotionally, was I Would Like Us to Be Friends. So if you want some tears, if you want some emotions, but if you want some heart, then that is where I suggest you go. Yours truly, Nevermore, by My Name is Shan. Okay, I feel I need to explain myself with this next one. There are a lot of albums that released last year, and some of them were very beloved by a lot of people. and I feel some of them were overrated, and others were fairly rated, but my number 7 is Take Me Back to Eden from Sleep Token. I don't know what to tell you. The album is great. I love Sleep Token, but I think because of how much hype there was for this album, I didn't like it as much as the hype wanted me to. Even going back over the album, I do think it's great. I think it's wonderful. Best tracks to me are Euclid, the title track, and Ascensionism. Ascensionism being probably one of my favorite songs released last year. I'll probably be making a video detailing my favorite tracks of last year as well. But I think that this album was overhyped, not to discredit Sleep Token on completing the trilogy of albums that they've done since Sundowning. But I really just don't think this track landed, or this album landed for me as much as I wanted it to, but it's still pretty great. So, number 7. Alrighty then, so, honorable mentions, another 2. We have Feral from Left to Suffer, and we also have Djent Is Not a Genre from Periphery. I love both of these albums. I checked them both out on the channel. Left to Suffer's Feral, the best track by far is Disappoint Me. It's just... Feral from Left to Suffer is just a good time. It is new deathcore at its finest. It is so groovy. It is so punchy. It holds... It pulls nothing back. It just gets... It rips straight into you, but it's just a good time all throughout. And Djent Is Not a Genre is just a very... very unique experience. It's not an album that takes itself too seriously. You can definitely tell that from the name, you know, being Djent Is Not a Genre, even though it very much is. Best track from that is the opener, Wildfire to me. That, Silhouette, or Everything Is Fine. So, yeah. Those are my next 2 honorable mentions. So, number 6 on this little chaotic list of mine is Far Away from Hala CG. I know, putting anything above Sleep Token. This album is so impressive to me. God damn. Far Away is the debut record from Hala, and I believe that she has something amazing here. Continuing on with her career so far, listening to stuff that she's put out since then has just been so cool, because even from this record she's grown in her musical expertise since. Best tracks are We Are One, the mega collab track, Kill Me, which is a very, very dark track. You can tell by the name, but take my word for it, it's actually a lot more twisted than you probably think it is. And Worship Me is my favorite track off the album. It's just, it has this very unique sense of style and this very, very powerful sensibility. It's really made it an amazing album to listen back to this year. It's probably my most replayed album from Spotify, at least on the top 10 list. So yeah, number 6, Far Away. The last 2 honorable mentions, we have Life Is But a Dream from Avenged Sevenfold, and the one that not a lot of people are going to agree with me with, but fuck you, this is my list, Where Do We Go From Here from Asking Alexandria. Now, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Life Is But a Dream was an amazing album, probably my second favorite album from Avenged Sevenfold, but it didn't live quite up. My second favorite album from Avenged Sevenfold, next to their album Nightmare. Second favorite album from them, next to Nightmare from way back in the day. But there was something about the rest of the albums from this year that didn't quite add up to it. And the God Trilogy, by far my favorite tracks. But I do put it here because I do deserve it. I think it deserves a place in my list. I just couldn't put it but I just really couldn't put it above the other ones, if I'm gonna be honest. And with Where Do We Go From Here, I think this album is very overhated. I think a lot of people don't like it because it doesn't stick to one succinct style, but I think that's what's great about this album, is that it takes everything from Asking Alexandria's discography, puts it into one album, and actually does it really well. An example of one that doesn't do that very well that I also reviewed this year is In This Moment, with their album God Mode. I thought that album mixed a lot of their different styles over the years and didn't do very well. But Where Do We Go From Here does everything that Asking Alexandria has done, puts it into 12 glorious tracks for me, and is a massive send-off to what I believe is going into the next era of this band. I'm really, really happy with it. Best track by far, another opinion that people probably won't agree with, is the title track. But that's just me. So, let's carry on. Top 5! And number 5 is Soul Elegy from Termina. This album was one of my most awaited releases of the year, period. So many singles had come out. Translucent, Take Flight, Parasocial, so many singles, and so much leading up to this album. Nick Nocturnal, Andy Sizik, and Chris Turner are wonderful, with Chris being the android on drums that he is, Nick being a master at metalcore and production, and Andy's vocals just being probably the best in the game this year, at least to me. This album was just everything. Favorite tracks are Take Flight, one of the singles, Inferno featuring Left to Suffer's Taylor Barber, who is just an absolute legend. His clean vocals are fire, his harsh are filthy, and obviously my favorite track out of all of them is Blackwater featuring Sean from Left to Suffer. No, not Left to Suffer. Make Them Suffer. There's too many suffers in metalcore. But yeah, that's number 5 for me. Number 4! Heart of an Artist Resurrection. Obviously this album was going to be on here. Will Ryan is one of my favorite artists of all time. He always will be. His stuff is just amazing, and this album proves that Heart of an Artist had so much going for it back when it was first made. It is a complete rebuilt version of the Heart of an Artist album from way back in 2018. I just absolutely love it. And from here on out, I'm going to be listing 4 of the best songs instead of 3 like with the others. Those being Too Dangerous. That track is just absolutely pounding in every way possible, and I love it. It's just very brutal. The title track, Heart of an Artist itself. Castle That Burns, the original song that was made specifically for this album and was not part of the 2018 original. And of course, my favorite song from the album, You're Just Making Us Stronger. Because that song is just cheesy, like very, very power metal sounding with breakdowns. It's just very cheesy, it's very sweet, it's very lovely. This entire album is amazing. The one complaint I have is that there is no bass, but I hope that we'll get an increase in that sort of sound from Will in the future. That's definitely my number 4 pick. Number 3! RWBY Volume 9 soundtrack. This one was a given. I live streamed this and I posted this reaction on the channel, and I love the attention that it's gotten. RWBY is one of my favorite shows of all time, along with Red vs. Blue, another Rooster Teeth series. Best tracks on this album are Worthy, Bumblebee Part 2, fuck you haters, Quiet, which was if I'm correct, that one was solely mixed by Casey, so that's really cool. Checkmate, the very electro swing sort of track, and Guide My Way, Red Like Roses Part 3. The Volume 9 OST is just super, super cool. It is the most diverse that RWBY has gotten ever in its runtime. And let's hope for Greenlight Volume 10 so that we can get more bangers from Casey and Martine through this music. Number 2. Oh, number 2. I'm happy that this album is here, because my number 2 is Vengar and the Defenders of the Damned. This album is so special to me. To think to myself, if I were to go back in time and tell myself in 2018, hey, you're gonna like a Lone Wolf music album more than you're gonna like an Iris album this year, I would have told myself I was crazy. But this album is just musical perfection to me. This album, to me at least, is just musical perfection in every way, shape, and form. I love this album. Its mixing, its mastering, the features. The huge amount of features on this list is insane. It is a very long album, running at 1 hour and 15 minutes with only 12 tracks. So if you're not really in for a very long album, I can definitely understand where you're coming from. And I totally get that you wouldn't listen to this, but I absolutely implore anyone to just sit down with this in one sitting and listen to it the whole way through. It is absolutely an amazing experience. Best tracks by far are the title track, Defenders of the Damned, Anthem of the Damned, My Control, and Take Me Back. Those are the best ones in my opinion. Honorable mention goes to Bittersweet Revenge for having an actual breakdown in a Lone Wolf music album, which is something I did not have on my 2023 bingo card when this came out. So yeah, my number 2 is Vengar and the Defenders of the Damned. But my number 1, the best album of 2023 to me, is The Fox and the Bird. You guys should have seen this coming. I said on my top 10 favorite albums of all time list that this has gotten to my number 2 slot. And I really can't tell you why. There's just something so profound about this album to me. It is so unique in every way, shape, and form. And again, I can't tell you why. It's just such an awesome album. From the Drought to the Crocodile, the Bear, the Raven, the best track on the album by far to me. The Raccoon and the Myth, Fox and the Bird, the title track, The Mountain. Oh, the glorious Mountain featuring Elizabeth Hall. Oh my god. Okay Goodnight really did something special with this album, and I can't sing its praises enough. It is a prog album masterpiece. It is the best prog album I have ever listened to in my entire life, and I will stand by that statement for as long as I live. And that was my list of the top 10 albums of 2023. I know it's a very late video. This should be coming out either in June or maybe even at the very tail end of May. I should get this video edited within a few days, so expect it pretty soon. If you like what you saw here, leave a like, leave a comment below on what you thought of my list, the songs, the albums themselves, what your favorite albums were. Comment them down below. I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff in the future, so sub, hit bell, because only like 85% of people who view my channel are subscribed. You know who you are if you're not. But that's about it for me. I've been Winter. This was my list of top 10 albums of 2023. Peace. In due time.